Presentation that our technical project managers put together in the last year or so. It was a requirement for some of our students as part of a grant requirement at one point, but now it is just something that I think is useful information. So I wanted to share it all with you today. We also are doing some summer workshops, and this was originally going to be part of one that we ended up merging into another workshop. So again, just wanted to make sure folks had the opportunity to get this information if it was something that they were interested in. For those who just joined, my name is Shannon Sheehy. I run the careers team here at CodeU. I was a student in the 2015 cohort, the very first one under the big federal grant that they got. I became a career coach after that, left for a couple years, came back when Code Kentucky started. So I helped manage the spread of the program to northern, central, and eastern Kentucky. And then in the last few years, I transitioned into a role over the careers team. Our careers team to date has seen about 1,500 folks get new jobs in tech, which is really exciting. It's been very cool for me to see. We had 44 on my first day as career coach in 2016, so that has been really cool. And one of the things that we've kind of seen change, and I think it's still changing and evolving within tech, is remote jobs. So when I was first with Code Louisville, pre-COVID, so 2016, 2019, we weren't seeing that many remote jobs for junior level folks in tech. We had a few students here and there that would get them, but for the most part, they were either fully on site or possibly hybrid if they were working for a local company that allowed for those sorts of accommodations. As you can guess, in 2020, 2021, with COVID, we did see a rise in remote work for those junior level tech jobs, in part because we had to. So a lot of companies were going remote because they needed to, not really because of choice. And some of those companies have stayed and some have not. So I think what we're seeing now is a little bit of a right setting almost. So companies, some are requiring folks to go back in office, some are at least requiring hybrid, but we are still seeing some companies that are fully remote first, meaning that they don't necessarily have a headquarters, and they are doing most of their hiring across the nation or even across the world. So just keep all that in mind as we're going along today. Just to be transparent, I would say overall, I've seen less junior roles that are remote, but it doesn't mean we're seeing none. We're still seeing some. We have a remote jobs channel in Slack, which I will show you here in a minute. So just keep that in mind as we go on here. A quick agenda for tonight's workshop. We'll talk a little bit about your resume, web presence and personal branding, applying for remote jobs, a little bit about technical interviews, but I have some really great resources I'm going to point you to for some better, dare I say, information. Talking about the reality of remote work and some challenges you might face, kind of the pros and cons there. And then wrap up with Q&A. So again, if you do have questions as we go along, I'm happy to answer those, but you can also wait till the end. It is up to you. So I want to do a quick kind of hands-on activity because I want to make sure that everybody is in our jobs channels. So hopefully you are seeing my Slack screen right now. I am in the announcements channel where I posted, thank you, Hannah, where I posted about our speaker for tonight. Up at the top, there is a search bar. I think this is probably the easiest way to find new channels now. They've kind of made it difficult. If you start typing in, so I'd already done it, but if you do the hashtag jobs dash, all of these jobs channels are going to show up. So we have a handful of jobs channels broken down by region, and then remote. So if you see jobs dash remote right here, you can click that and hit enter, and it's going to take you to our remote jobs channel. I would highly recommend joining this channel if you have not already. This is going to be where our team, mostly Allie and I, list any of the remote jobs we come across that we think would be potentially good fits for you all. As you'll see, there's some that Allie came across. I subscribe to a diversified tech newsletter, so I'll share some of those. I'm in a Cincinnati tech Slack, so I shared a role from a Cincinnati-based company that is possibly remote as well. All kinds of opportunities. So again, it's not that there's none, it's just that there's fewer than we've seen in recent years. Again, you're going to find that by going to that top search bar, typing jobs dash, and then you can join any of these that you like. We have them again by region. There's one for other region, so that's jobs outside of our little Kentucky area. And then Jobs Empower Up is for specifically Power BI jobs. We had a program called Empower Up for a while, but you're welcome to join that if you are, if you have a Power BI background or you're interested in Power BI roles. If you have trouble finding these or getting to any of them, just shoot me a quick DM on Slack at Shannon Sheehy, and I will help you once we're done with the presentation here. But really want to make sure that you all are added to that channel if it's something that's interesting to you, if you're trying to find a remote job. So our career coaches put on a really great career readiness workshop for you all in between modules 2 and 3, where they talked about resumes and LinkedIn and interviewing. But I want to give just a quick reminder about technical skills and non-technical skills and what you may want for a remote job. So when you're looking at your resume, I know a lot of you are in a situation where you have not been in a professional tech role before. You're a career changer, which is great. That is what our program was started to do, was to help career changers get into tech. So we need to focus a lot on your transferable skills, on your projects, on things that are going to help you be noticed for this role that maybe wouldn't be as clear from just looking at your employment history. You're going to want to look at what skills you have from previous roles that can help set you apart in the tech industry. We have lots of examples of folks getting hired on at companies because of their soft skills and problem solving, not specifically for their tech know-how. One great example, in my early Code Louisville days, I worked with a student who was a car salesman, and for the most part, he really enjoyed it. He'd been doing it for a while, but it was very up and down. So some months he made great money, it was awesome. Other months, not so much. So as he started his family and was really thinking about his future, he wanted something that was a little more stable. So he ended up going into a role with a local marketing type company where he was sort of the go-between between the client and the tech team. So he wasn't coding all day, every day, but he was able to explain some of the really complex tech concepts to the customer and then take their questions and requests back to the tech team so that they could actually make progress on that. So I think that's a really good example. It's really a lot easier for a company to teach you the tech skills than it is for them to teach you the so-called soft skills. So if you're already in a situation where you know how to show up to work on time, and whether that's in person or in a remote role, and you know you have some business skills, you kind of know how to work with other people, those are things that are hard to teach. And if you don't have them, you may not. Strong communication skills are really crucial in remote jobs. I manage a remote team of 5 employees right now, and communication is huge for me because I don't always know what everybody's doing. I can't just peek in on them. They can't peek in on me. They don't know what I'm doing. So doing things like messaging me if their schedule changes, or keeping the rest of the team updated on what they're doing, making sure that everybody has shared calendars, are all really great things that you can emphasize. Managing your time well and being able to work independently are super important for remote roles. We'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to like the pluses and minuses, but if you aren't able to keep yourself on track, remote work may not be for you. If you can bring all of those abilities to the table, that is a really good start. Communication, especially, is a skill that's often lacking in tech teams. So if you think of like the stereotypical person in tech, a developer, you picture somebody probably introverted. Doesn't mean that they're bad at communication, but it may not necessarily be their strong suit. So if that is a skill that you can bring to the table, that is going to be something that can really help you stand out as a non-traditional candidate. Patty, highlighting that you trained workshops on all of those topics. Yeah, absolutely. I think that would definitely be beneficial. For myself specifically, I am looking at like communications and project management type roles. So talking about like the training I've done, talking about like workshops that I've led, anything that really tangibly shows my communication skills is really great. And I think Patty, in your situation, that makes a lot of sense, especially if it's a role that calls for a lot of communication. Being able to show that you have put together lessons that you can comfortably present would also kind of lead to being able to comfortably talk to a customer or talk to a client, which is a really great skill to have. So focusing a little bit on GitHub and LinkedIn. Again, I know that you all, if you're in the January cohort, you just covered a lot of this last month in your career readiness requirement, but we are career readiness workshop. But just kind of a reminder that employers are going to look you up. So you should definitely have your GitHub linked on your resume. That's going to help them find your projects, find your code. They're going to want to see what you've worked on. You can have your LinkedIn on there if you would like. You want to make sure that your LinkedIn is up to date if you do have one. And that it is a professional tool, but it is okay to show off your personality a little bit. So with GitHub, that could mean making a really fun intro on there in your README. It could mean creating some cool projects that speak to your personality or your interests. I know Code Louisville students or Code U students who have ended up getting really cool jobs because when they went into their interview, they were able to talk comfortably about their project and it was something that was interesting to the hiring manager. So it may not even be the most complex project, but if it's something that kind of has a hook and you can use it to connect and it's something you feel comfortable talking about, that's going to put you in a really great place. Having a complete LinkedIn profile can also be helpful. You can post your own posts, but you don't have to. You can kind of just connect with people, stay active. I would share any sort of positive things that you've accomplished. So when you finish a module all the way up to once you finish your course, you'll get a little virtual certificate. You can share that. If you do some learning on your own, you could share that. And if you are job hunting, you can put out an ask there and see if anybody in your network is able to help. So all of those things are just ways for you to keep building connections as you are going about your job hunt. Here are some screenshots from one of our grads from a few years ago, Christina. She has a really great LinkedIn profile. She has links to her GitHub on there, so a hiring manager could easily access that. She has some recent activity. You don't need to have a question that comes up. You don't need to have a separate profile for your like tech persona. So for you all that are career changers, you're just going to want to kind of mesh that in with whatever you were doing previously. So for example, if your past is like in the service industry or you were a nurse or a teacher, keep that profile if you already had it and you can just add to it. You can add your transferable skills. This about section is a really great place to put kind of your story, what you're interested in. You can add your projects, you can add Code U as education, as well as your experience, again, where you could put any of your transferable skills there. You can also create a headline, which is this section up here. And in that, you can put what you want to be doing. So you could put junior software developer or QA tester or project manager or whatever it is that you're aspiring to be. If you don't do that, it is just going to default to your current job title, which for a lot of you, I know is not what you want to be doing. So a few leads, and I will share the slides as a PDF after this, so you will have these as a resource, but some examples of where you can find remote jobs. So job boards, there are some that are specifically targeted. So like We Work Remotely, the name says it, they are specifically targeting remote roles. And some of these are all over, or kind of some are on site, some are hybrid, some are remote. Recruiting agencies are sometimes filling remote roles, so you can check out them. And then we do know some companies that tend to be remote first and hire, if not exclusively, hire primarily for remote roles. So again, all of these are lists that you can check out. Where to find more, so you can ask your mentors where they work. You can check out where your LinkedIn connections work. If you go to networking events, you can ask folks. There are some networking events that I see like on meetup.com that are for virtual workers to get together. So you could go to that and see where people are working. And then also our Jobs channel and Slack. So that's another great one. Something I would also just kind of note is sometimes companies will put that a job's remote, or it'll be listed as like in Louisville or in Lexington. But as you start to read it, it's actually hybrid or remote for whatever reason. They've just listed where the company is. And some are also open to folks moving remote once they've been on for a while. So I would say if you're interested in a job, definitely apply. If it explicitly says it's on site in a city where you don't live and are not planning to move to, that is likely not going to be the best fit. But if it's hybrid, for example, there may be some more wiggle room there. So when it comes to applying for a job, definitely research the company, especially with just kind of the weirdness of the tech landscape right now. There are unfortunately a lot of spam companies and jobs popping up. So whenever I'm looking through LinkedIn or a different source and trying to find a job to apply to, I first try to see if I know anyone there or if I have any second connections there. So like a friend of a friend, essentially, to kind of vouch for it. That's not a fail-safe method, but it at least gives me something to look at aside from just the company page. I try to look at their actual website. I try to see if there are any reviews about them, if I'm not already familiar with what they do. I would say with the rise in AI, it seems like there's a new AI company popping up every day. And I'm sure some of those are not legit, or at least maybe don't have the best intentions. So I would just make sure you're keeping an eye out there. When thinking about these jobs, you want to think about things that are valuable to you. So what you want to do is important, and it also is something you want to keep in mind for how your values line up. So if it's a company that doesn't fit with how you live your lifestyle or what you want to be doing, it may not be the best fit at that time, even if it's available. Making sure that you have an updated resume is really helpful. Cover letters, I would say, are kind of hit or miss in tech. Sometimes we will see jobs or companies rather that are requiring those. I would say for the most part, not. I, again, am applying to more like communication focused roles. So a lot of the ones I'm applying to do ask for a cover letter. And even if it's optional, I try to put one just because if it's communication focused, I want as many chances as possible to show off my really great communication skills. For those of you that are like strictly applying for tech roles, I would say for the most part, it is not necessary. But if there's a spot for it, or if they specifically request it, you can keep it pretty simple. Introduce yourself, talk about your related skills. So for a lot of you, again, that's going to be touching on your project, as well as completing your education course, and then any sort of transferable skills that you have. You can keep it pretty short and sweet. And then I think the biggest thing is just applying. So I talk to students all the time that either seem kind of like down on the tech industry, or are just sort of frustrated in general. And I get that. I totally empathize. I'm a job seeker right now. It's not great. I don't envy anyone in our positions. But you have to apply. You have to put yourself out there. So when I talk to folks and they're like, yeah, it really sucks. And I'm like, well, how many jobs have you applied to? And they're like, well, like 2. That is not going to cut it. I have applied to 2 before I like even get out of bed in the morning. It is something where it's a numbers game. You got to just keep applying, keep putting yourself out there. And hopefully you will end up finding the right match. So something where it's a really great role for you and they're really lucky to have you as well. Definitely connect to folks on LinkedIn. You can connect to people on the team that you're applying for, recruiters, engineers, hiring managers. If you're interested in a company and you see that you have a bunch of connections, or like you see someone that works there and you have a bunch of people in common with them, I think it's worth reaching out. I think the worst people can do is ignore you. Sometimes they may have a negative answer, but I would say for the most part, if people aren't willing to help for some reason, they're just going to ignore the request, which that's their prerogative. And then reach out to myself or Allie on Slack. We may have a connection. If we put in the Slack channel for jobs to reach out to us when we post a job, let us know, and we can pass along your resume to the hiring manager. A little bit about boosting your chances. So a lot of companies use applicant tracking systems or an ATS, and you want to use an ATS friendly resume format. So what that means, I would keep it as simple as possible. So not a lot of like tables, not a ton of formatting. You want to keep it really easy and readable. Tailoring your job to each application is really important. I'm running a job seeker boot camp right now, and this is something that I think the tailoring part, I think is something that folks get stuck on a lot. So I do want to take a couple minutes just to talk about that a little bit more. Again, I know Jenny and Candy touched on that in the workshops, but hopefully a little bit more info will be helpful. So what I do when I'm tailoring a resume is I start every job hunt with like a 4 to 5 page resume, like a really long resume that I would never ever send to an employer, but that lists out everything I've done, kind of dating back all the way to like college days. The reason I do that is as I'm applying to new roles, I want to make sure that I have any sort of relevant information on there. So as you'll remember from the workshop, we generally recommend going back about 10 years on your resume. For me, that brings me to about the start of my time with Code Louisville. If I go back just a few more years, I have some really solid communications experience that I want on my resume for some of the roles I'm applying for. So as I'm applying, especially like for those communications focused roles, I have a pared down resume that's no longer than 2 pages that focuses on those communication skills, really highlights any of the pieces of my current job that are communications related. So putting on workshops, putting together the Tech Careers newsletter, any of our like newsletters and outreach to employers, those sorts of things. Those are kind of front and center. And then as I go along, so I'm also applying to like project management type roles. Those skill sets are a little bit different. Each time I am not fully creating a resume from start to finish. I'm just copying and pasting whatever the most similar resume I created was. So if I apply to 2 communication jobs in a row, I copy that resume again, go through, make sure I'm matching any keywords for the new resume, and then I send it off. In some cases, I may not make any changes at all. In other cases, it may look quite a bit different, just again, because I want to match those keywords as closely as possible. So it is quite an undertaking. I'm not going to lie to you there, sugarcoat it. It does take a lot of effort, but being able to get yourself through to get an interview is going to be most of the battle when job hunting, right? So you want to make sure you're setting yourself up as best as possible, especially if you don't have any sort of referral or in at that company. So making sure that you are matching those skills exactly as possible. Familiarize yourself with remote tools. So you're already using Slack as part of your Code U class. If you use Microsoft Teams or Discord or Zoom, Meet, using GitHub, any of those tools, if you have used like Asana or Trello or anything tech related as part of your class or through a role or just in a project that you're doing on your own, you can absolutely mention those. Sometimes they'll even mention the specific ones in the job description. Networking and connecting to people on LinkedIn. One thing we learned from doing this workshop a while ago was that if you follow companies on LinkedIn, that makes your name go to the top of the list or near the top of the list with other people that follow that company. So if you are interested in Humana, for example, you could follow Humana on LinkedIn. And if you apply to a role through them, they are going to see you at the top, which is really cool. And then make sure you do some mock interviews. So you can reach out to your career coach for a mock interview. You can ask your fellow students, you all can practice together. You can ask your friends. I think having kids interview you is always really fun because they don't really know if the answer is right or wrong, but it helps you kind of get those talking muscles going and getting some practice in there. A little bit on working with recruiters because this is something that comes up in tech quite a bit. So there are internal and external recruiters. So an internal recruiter would be someone who is employed directly by that company and handles some of the hiring and talent engagement for them internally. An external recruiter would be someone who works at a company like Brooksource or Tech Systems or Vaco that does placements for a company. A lot of external recruiters are pretty exclusively working on filling higher level roles because there is a fee. So companies don't really want to pay to help them find someone with lower level talent, if that makes sense. They may also, though, be working on fulfilling a large contract. So I know like the state of Kentucky or the Commonwealth uses a lot of recruiting, like 3 or 4 different recruiting agencies to help with like their help desk roles and roles that are more high volume. When talking with an external recruiter, be upfront about what you're looking for. If you're looking for remote work and you can kind of tell them any reasoning behind that, that's always great. If you can be willing to be flexible on that, that's also good for them to know. Go into it with open eyes. So recruiters on the external side, they're meeting a quota, so they may not always be looking out for what's best for you. So make sure that you're doing your own research on employers. Show them all of your skills. So you may not be a great fit for the role that you reached out about or that they initially contacted you about, but you may be a really great fit for something else. So just make sure that you let them know everything that you're capable of. Stay top of mind with them. So stay in their inbox, keep following up with them. Again, their job is to help fill roles and to get companies great talent. So if you keep following up, stay top of mind. Hopefully they'll think of you first when new opportunities come around. Be aware of how the relationship works. So if a recruiter talks to you about a specific company and is going to submit you for a role, make sure that you're not getting submitted for that same role by a different recruiter. It sounds cool, like, oh, great, I have double the recruiting power. But it can really mess things up and can cause delays in hiring. And it can also it can run into issues to where the employer just doesn't want to hire you because they have issues with the two recruiters working kind of competitively. So on the same hire. So make sure that you're being careful there. And again, be aware of hiring scams, vet recruiters that reach out to you. Having mutual LinkedIn connections may not be enough, but if you do have mutual connections, you can at least always reach out to those folks. You can look up the recruiting firm online. You can see if there are good or bad reviews about it. And that's just another way to help you keep safe. A few other places to meet some tech connections. So these, for the most part, are linked in the tech events channel. If you go down to that, you should all be in that one. There is a calendar of tech events, and when you click on that, I link to the regional Slack communities. So there are Slack communities in Louisville and Cincinnati and Lexington that you can get an invite to, and that is really great ways to meet. I'm gonna have to find my screen again. Sorry. To meet other folks that are working in the tech industry. You can find Discord channels. You can search for other groups, events, conferences. There's a lot of stuff going on. I try to post what I see in that tech events channel and in that spreadsheet, but you can find all kinds of different groups that fit your interests. Using LinkedIn is also really great. Reaching out to your classmates and keeping in touch with folks you've been in class with is really great. And leverage contacts you already have. So you may be part of a running group or part of a crochet group or part of like the PTA, and you never know who you're going to meet there. So always go into those sorts of opportunities with an open mind, and you may end up meeting some tech connections there. I had a tote bag set out. I was doing a garage sale and I had some totes for people if they were buying a bunch of stuff, so that they had a little shopping bag. And one of our shoppers stopped to ask if I worked in tech because he saw one of my tote bags was from a tech conference that happened here locally. He worked in tech at UPS. We connected. And he was able to end up helping us get some folks hired there. So that was just a fully random occurrence, but it's just another kind of reminder to keep your eye out. You never know who you're going to meet. Want to talk a little bit about technical interviewing, specifically through the lens of what you may see as a remote applicant. I will also, after this, when I share the recording tomorrow, share a link to, actually, I'll grab it as we're here too, a link to a talk by Mark Hamner, who is a partner of the program. He has done a lot of interviewing at places like Waystar and Papa John's. And I'm going to share this here. It's probably going to start playing. So noise for a second. He has interviewed folks across all levels. He has done tons of interviewing and has some really great tips on it. So definitely check that out if you are someone who is interested in a tech role and you're going to be going through a technical interview. I think he has a lot of really great advice, some of which we pulled for our presentations. But in a technical interview, specifically as a remote candidate, some things you may see, you might have a timed assignment. So you might have something where you are like actually in a virtual meeting with them and you are coding and they can see it. It's like on a shared screen and they can see it. You might have a take-home assignment where you are doing kind of a mini project on your own and you have a few days to do it. You may have observed coding, kind of the same as timed assignment, but may or may not be like officially timed. You can share a browser-based coding editor that lets them see code in real time. Again, they want to see people who think like a developer. So you may not be expected to get the exact right answer. They want to know where your knowledge tops out. A lot of times they will start with kind of easier questions and sort of ease you in. Sometimes they'll start really hard because that's just what their interview style is. But I think a lot of companies that are used to working with junior level folks will start a little easier and then kind of get to the harder questions to see where your knowledge goes. You may have sort of like a Q&A type interview. I think that's really popular. So you could be asked questions about like, why are you interested in moving into a tech role, or tell us a little bit about your project. They may be more cultural. They might also be tech-based. It's kind of depends on the company there. So I would say with any of these, practice makes perfect, and make sure that you are getting some of the repetition in. One of the things I always recommend is having an answer to the tell me about yourself question. So again, that is one that is super popular, and it always blows my mind as an interviewer when I ask, or when I've been in interviews and it's been asked and someone doesn't have an answer or can't come up with anything. You want to make sure that you can talk about yourself, especially in the lens of how you're going to be a really great fit for whatever job you're applying for. Patty in chat asked, what do I suggest when you get test anxiety and freeze up when you get to the time limit? So I would recommend treating any of these like assignments or any of these options as a math problem. So we all remember from math class, it's important to show your work. You're going to want to talk through what you're doing. You're going to want to talk through what your process is. I would say for a lot of these, like, it's not, when I say timed assignment, it's more like they're going to give you like an hour to do something. It's not like, okay, you have 30 seconds to answer this question and then 30 seconds to answer another one. It's just a longer period of time where they can see your skills come alive. I know that can still be really daunting, especially if it's your first time doing a technical interview, or you maybe don't have that tech background and it's something that you're working on. So deep breaths for sure, walking them through what you're working on. We had Blake from the training team came and talked to my job seeker bootcamp cohort last week, and he was saying that he's done a couple technical interviews, and it for him was definitely a daunting experience. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was saying how he just tried to walk the interviewer through his answer. We were saying we had somebody tell us that they asked if they could Google something during the interview, which I think is really smart. You could say, hey, you know, I think this is the route I'm going to go, but I don't know exactly how to structure this function, or I'm not exactly sure what I would code here, but here's what I want to ask, or here's what I would look up. Here's sort of the resource I would need to achieve this task. So I think any of those are really great ways to get around some of those jitters and to at least keep you moving. I think the biggest part is to just keep talking. So not so much so that you are just talking in circles and not making sense, but as long as you are showing like you're thinking, here's my process, here's what I would do, here's what I would look up, even if I don't exactly know what's going on, that's going to make you better off. So hopefully that helps, Patty, but if you do have any follow-up questions, definitely let me know. At the end of an interview, you want to be ready with some questions for the company. So especially if you're applying for a remote role, some things you might want to ask are what the onboarding looks like. So some companies, they are remote, but they do require some sort of on-site presence during the onboarding piece, or they may have a fully remote onboarding. You just want to be sure what is going to await you. You could ask about the possibility of having to return to the office. So a lot of companies are really upfront about, hey, we're remote first. We don't see a return to office in our future. Some are a little more wishy-washy on it. So they're like, we're remote now or we're hybrid right now, but our CEO really wants people in. That'll give you some insight there. You can ask about how the teams communicate with each other. So, are you going to be spending most of your time on Zoom calls? Are you going to be using Google Chat to get in touch with people? It's just kind of good to know how they handle that communication piece going in. I think a really important piece for you all that are career changers is knowing how they mentor and train junior employees. If you ask and they don't have an answer, that maybe isn't the best sign. It probably means they don't know how to mentor and train junior employees, which can really be a detriment to you. I would look for companies that already have a nice infrastructure in place for that. They have team leads and higher up developers that are excited and ready to help mentor and to help really nurture those junior folks. You can ask how they define success. You can ask if they have opportunities for continued learning. If you have any questions whatsoever about the role, this is kind of your point to ask about it. And especially if you're looking for something remote, thinking about it through that lens can be really important too. Some things that you need to work remotely. A solid internet connection is really important. So a lot of times your employer is going to require live video calls. A lot of employers require a camera on. They want to see their employees since they are not seeing them all the time, like in a workplace, which I personally think is fair and makes sense. But you at least need to be able to do your work and not constantly have a shaky internet connection messing you up. We all lose power at some point, or the internet goes down for whatever reason. Having a backup plan is great too. So if you have like a friend across town, or there's a coffee shop that's on a different grid that you can get to, or if you have some sort of backup, that's always really great as well. I don't think my power's ever gone out on just like a normal day. It went out when we had demo day a couple years ago. So I went over to a friend's house, so I was able to still run things from her house. So having that backup in place really made things easier. Having a solid computer, which hopefully the employer is going to provide that for you. I would say most do, especially in a tech setting. But if you are applying for like a customer service type role or like a call center type role that's remote, they may not. Having a clear webcam, clear microphone, a professional background. And by professional, I don't mean like it has to be all buttoned up, but you want to make sure it's at least clean, tidy. You can use like the video backgrounds or like the green screen type backgrounds. And again, just making sure it's professional, whatever that means to you. So again, it doesn't have to be like super stuffy and buttoned up, but you don't want something wild going on in your background either. Having a dedicated workspace is really important to most employers. So ideally, you're in a room with its own door that's quiet and away from any distractions. I have worked remote over the last few years, and I have a toddler now. So she is typically during the week with her babysitter. They will stay like on the main level. I'm working on the second level. And I have a door to my room so I can kind of keep myself separated even though I'm at home. Some employer expectations when it comes to their remote workers. Making sure that you are asking for what you need. They're not seeing you in person, so they might miss subtle signs that you need help. If you are really stuck on a technical problem or you're encountering other barriers that are affecting your work, it's definitely important to reach out. Keeping people in the loop on what you're doing. So letting them know that something's being worked on, especially if there's a delay to it. You don't want people to have to wonder whether something's being done or not. Meeting deadlines is really important. And if you're not going to be meeting a deadline, communicating that clearly and early is very important as well. Making sure that you're paying attention in meetings. We say even if the meeting should have been an email, making sure that you are still showing your face, you're still being active, being reachable. I always tell the folks that report to me, I'm not expecting you to like reply to a Slack message the second I send it. But if it's been a few hours or a little while and I'm expecting you to be working, you're supposed to be working, there's nothing on your calendar, that is cause for concern. So making sure that you're available during your work hours when you're supposed to be. If you have a flexible schedule like our team does, that's great, but clearly communicating that and getting in touch when people need you is really important as well. One of the cool features of Slack that I think might be on Teams as well is you can set a status so that folks know if you're available or not. On your calendar, you can mark off, like I took my daughter to a doctor appointment this morning. So I had that on my calendar, nice and big and clear so that folks knew if they were messaging me, it was going to be a little while before they got a response. A little bit of talk about what remote work actually is. It isn't for everyone, so it can feel isolating. If you live alone, especially, and you're in a tech-focused job where you're only doing like a stand-up and you don't have that many meetings, it may be hard on you. A lot of people are used to social interaction in the office, whether they realize it or not. If you're a junior, it can be difficult to find someone to ask about a problem. So you might be forced to just sort of message random seniors that you may or may not have had much work with. And it definitely is a little bit harder than just being able to ask them in person. If you aren't great at checking messages or emails or leaving people on read or not replying to them, fully remote may also not be a great fit. So you, again, need to make sure that you're being responsive. And that doesn't mean like just staring at your phone and responding just to respond, but just getting back to folks promptly so that the work can continue. It's easy to be distracted. So remote workers can sometimes get distracted by chores or talking to family, walking your dog, cooking, that sort of thing. So just making sure that you're staying on track and when you should be working, you are actually working. And small distractions can cause big problems. So if you're constantly taking breaks to do little things around your house, that can really add up. I would say for the most part, it's usually fine if you're stepping away for a little bit. I like to take walks during my workday, or since I'm at home, making a lunch is definitely a benefit. But I make sure that I'm taking that time to step away from work and then going back and being really focused. And then I know for some people, it can be really easy to work outside of their work hours when they're a remote worker. So be aware of the time that you're spending on work. For me, I am very fortunate in that this room I pretty much just use for work. I also use it like to apply to jobs and to work on side projects. But if I am done with work, I can leave this room, shut the door, and not come back until I'm ready to work again. If you're working from your couch or God forbid your bed, or from an area that you are constantly seeing and constantly around, it can be a little bit harder to unplug. So I would say make sure you have set working hours, make sure that you're helping yourself stick to that you have some sort of routine. I know some people will like get in their car and like drive somewhere at the beginning and end of the workday to kind of simulate that. I don't go that far. I don't need that piece. I just like to literally keep my computer in a different room than I am once I am disconnected. Some tips and tricks, and we have talked about most of these, but just to kind of touch on them one more time. Communicate a lot. So learn how your team communicates and mimic that. Keeping work to a specific area is really helpful. Keeping your office door closed. Again, my toddler can't quite reach the door yet, but if you have older kids, it may be harder to sustain that boundary. I say older kids, it may be a spouse or someone else that lives with you as well. Make sure you have a comfortable working environment. So a good office chair is important. Move often, stretch. I have a standing desk, which I love. I was on my feet all day, but normally I will be standing here. I have a little mini fridge with some snacks and some drinks in there. When we had a sitter, it was really tough for me to be able to sneak downstairs without her seeing me. So I kind of just have everything I need in this little room. Building a routine for yourself. And then again, using your calendar, make sure that you're showing your meetings and tasks, keeping organized, and just being open with what you're doing with your coworkers so that they know when they can expect to hear from you. So some next steps and just things to think about if you're thinking about a remote role, specifically in tech. Practice presenting your project. So for some of you, you may not have your project yet, but as you're creating it, practice talking about it. Talk about it to your kids, to your friends, your spouse, your parents, your coworkers, possibly, your classmates. Get used to talking about it because you're going to have to once you start interviewing. Make sure your resume is complete. Have your capstone project there, have all the skills you learned. You can reach out to your career coach if you need additional help with that. They would be happy to help you. I know you have a resume requirement right now if you're part of the January course, but they are always happy to help beyond that point as well. And then I always say to apply to at least one job, but the more the better. You really do have to put yourself out there if you are hoping to get a tech role. And then try to do one thing each day to keep up your learning. So it's easy to lose momentum when we aren't doing something every day. You can show your activity in GitHub. You can work on personal projects. You can find a YouTube video to watch that is complementary to what you want to be doing. Anything that just keeps that learning going. You don't want to look up 3 months from now and say, darn, I haven't done any coding. I haven't learned anything new. Now I don't really know where to start. It's easier when you already have that motivation. And then let us know when you get hired. So once you put in all that work, once you do get hired, please let us know. We are unfortunately coming to an end at the end of August, but every last job placement counts, and we are here to celebrate you. And we want to count as many as we can before that point. So I know we're close to time, but I am happy to answer any questions that you all may have that I haven't addressed yet. Just let me know. And otherwise, if you don't have any questions, you are free to go. But I appreciate you all being here tonight and hope you got something out of this. Oh yeah, Rebecca, that's a great question. So Rebecca in the chat is asking about proper AI use. So some companies have like an AI disclaimer on their job listings. So I'll say that for one, and I would follow that. For two, Allie on our team did a really great presentation a few weeks ago on how to use AI in your job hunt. So I would scroll back through announcements and check out the recording for that. It wasn't too long, so you can check that out. She also had some takeaways to go with it. As kind of a quick like recap though, or just what I would suggest, I think it's totally okay to use AI as you are crafting your resume and your cover letter and prepping for an interview, but absolutely be clear on what you're using it for and make sure that you're double checking. So if you're using AI to touch up your resume or to help you with the cover letter, be sure to read it. You may want to change some words around. You want to make it sound like it's coming from a human from you. because it should be coming from you. Make sure the information is correct. It may come up with something because it was tagged on your profile, or it may include something incorrect because it just does. So you want to make sure that all of the information on there is correct, because ultimately, ChatGPT did my resume, or that's why it's wrong, or that's why it said this, isn't a good enough reason. An employer isn't going to love that. So that would be my big warning. Most companies, I would say, that kind of mention AI have disclaimers on their websites now about not using AI during interviewing, which to me feels obvious. And I type quickly, but I don't even know like how I would pull that off, but apparently people are doing that. So again, if you are interviewing, just making sure that you are present, you're talking to the person, you're not like typing questions into ChatGPT and then spitting out the answer back to them. So long story short, and again, check out Allie's recording that is in announcements. If I remember, I will tag it under the recording when I post it tomorrow, so you all have it. But I would say use it for prep, check it, and then make sure you are your authentic self once you're actually interviewing. And if you have any follow-ups, Rebecca, let me know. But hopefully between that and Allie's recording, that's helpful. I think I saw a hand up. Did anybody else have a question? All right. Well, tomorrow I will share the recording for this. It usually takes a while to come through, as well as some takeaways and the slides, so you all can get those job boards. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Allie Rippey in Slack. We are both happy to help. Yeah, thank you all for attending tonight. Again, if you are attending as part of your tech event requirement, please be sure to record that in Top Hat. Otherwise, I hope